at the MEDANZ Festival in Napier has given me a chance to speak with a number of teachers throughout New Zealand that are a bit hard to get to. We're a long, thin country. So it was great to be able to spend some time with Setsuna and ask her about silk fans. Hi, I'm Kashmir.
I'm Setsuna.
And I'm here today at Napier, and I was just wondering, what's your background when it comes to silk fans?
Yes, thank you for calling it that. Well, my background with silk fans starts in Chinese dance. I've been belly dancing longer than I did Chinese dance, but a few years into my belly dancing, I was also studying at uni, and I was studying Mandarin. And because I'm a dancer and my thoughts were focusing a lot on some Chinese history and Mandarin language, I thought, well, why don't I see what Chinese dance is? Because I really didn't have much of an idea at all. So I reached out to this Chinese dance group in my community, and there was really only a couple of Chinese dance groups in our area. There was a Chinese community.
This wasn't in New Zealand though, was it?
This was in the U.S.
Oh, this is the US,
Yeah, in
right.
the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And I reached out to them and kind of pestered them really because Chinese dance is not typically something that's just available to everybody. You know, it's usually very rooted in the community. So I contacted the group and kept following up, and eventually I just kind of came and they said, yeah, okay, come on, you can join us. So that was how I sort of was introduced to fans, was in the Chinese context, which is where the fans come from. And I danced with that group for several years. Anytime basically I was living in the US, I was dancing with them.
Yeah. So you're saying it's been used for hundreds of years in China, or thousands of years in China?
Thousands of years. Fan dancing, dancing with fans, can be traced as far back as the Han Dynasty, which is about 200 BC or 200 BCE, depending on how you classify. And dancing with silk fans is a little different, though. So fan dancing with just a static, typical, like fan yourself fan, can be traced back to the Han Dynasty, but I have to say I haven't seen any evidence of dancing with fans with silk attached to them until about the Tang Dynasty, which is 600 to 900 roughly, the 7th century.
That's still quite
That's still very old, yeah. And you know, and there could be research out there that does trace earlier. I just haven't seen it, but some people do say it goes even farther back. But basically, it's been around a really long time, and because of that, I like to share some of that Chinese perspective because they've been doing it for a long time, a lot longer than belly dancers, and you know they probably are pretty good at it. So I think they are, and it's different than the way I think belly dancers have kind of come to think about it.
What's the difference between the two? Just one typical thing between how a belly dancer would use one and how it's used traditionally.
Well, I think one of the really defining differences is in Chinese dance. The silk fans are often used to represent elements, not all the time, but this is a common theme with the fans, is they'll use the fans to represent fire, or winds and clouds, or water. And another really big difference is in Chinese dance, the majority of dances are group dances, and then there's some solos. Whereas in belly dance, it's almost the opposite. You have a lot of soloists, and you do have plenty of groups, but when you think of the quintessential belly dancer, you tend to think of a soloist. So because of that, in Chinese dance, the fans are used in very collective ways. Yeah. It's not a soloist very often dancing with fans. It's big groups representing changing seasons, or big groups representing a large wave of the ocean. Or in the case of my group, we had a fire dance where 3 of us came out starting off as kind of soft embers with the fans closed, and by the end we're all on stage doing huge turns and the flames are wild, and you know.
Oh, it sounds really fascinating.
Yeah, it's a great way to think of using the fans, and it's actually why I think it's important to sort of call them silk fans,
not fan veils.
Not fan veils, because you know, I think for 2 reasons. I think fan veils, when somebody is in belly dance and they first hear about these fans and they think of them as fan veils, they think of them as kind of veils. You know, what can I do with a veil? I guess that's what I can do with the fan.
Yeah.
And that limits our creativity. It's not to say that it's not useful. Many of the things that you can do with a veil, you can also do with a fan. So it's a great reference point to begin with, but it eventually starts to limit the way you can be creative with the fans. And the other reason is because it already has a name.
Yeah.
And we...
So fans.
Yeah.
Is that the translation of the Chinese, or?
It's not the direct translation, but it's a very close translation. And I think maybe we can even follow up, because I do have the Mandarin word and writing, but unfortunately it's been a little while since I've actually had to use it, so I can send it to you.
And I can put it along the bottom here.
Yeah. And so that way you can see what they're referred to in the dance, but it almost transliterates to just basically long silk fan.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, that's really fascinating, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know when it was started to be used with belly dance? It's fairly recent, isn't it?
Very recent. I have heard some people say as early as the 90s, but at least in the US, it seemed to really hit in the sort of early 2000s, like 2004, 2005, 2006. And I remember when I started seeing belly dancers dance at the fans, I thought, oh, well, I've got those. I do them in Chinese dance. I had never thought of it before, to use them in belly dance. And so it was actually very, very inspiring and very interesting to see how belly dancers were working with it. Yeah. But there was a lot of misinformation out there. So I'm actually glad you're doing this video.
Okay, great.
Because people were saying, oh, it's from flamenco, and they come from here, they come from there. And when I did my first fan workshop, it sold out because there was so much curiosity. People wanted to know the background. Yeah. I wish I would have done more workshops, though, so I could get people saying silk fans instead of fan bells. So.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.